Hey there, toy collector friends and Transformers fans alike. Welcome back to the channel. This is the Time Travelling Toy Collector, and this is the Transformers Legacy Diaclone Universe Twin Twist, part of the Wreck and Rule collection, recently released by Hasbro. So there's quite a buzz when this came out. They did quite a nifty marketing campaign showing us on over a 5-day period, release by release, of each of the new figures. Well, I say new, they're mostly redecos or repaints of pre-existing figures, generally speaking. So I'm going to sound in a minute a little bit hypocritical, but bear with me on that. So this is the first that I'm going to share with you. It's Twin Twist, as I mentioned, and it's lovely box art, as is always the case. It's quite a small box. Wreck and Rule collection legacy, lovely artwork on the front of Twin Twist. There he is on the side. Round the back is the obligatory product shots, some Headmaster activity, which we won't call a Headmaster, and the vehicle mode, and the lovely Diaclone colours, and all the words and all the stuff. And at the end of it, behind the box, we have the main event itself. So here is Twin Twist. Now, whilst we take in that figure, and it's a really lovely figure, you know, I can't pretend it's not, here comes my hypocritical perspective. This is a Diaclone repaint of a version of Twin Twist I understand was released previously before I restarted my collecting of Transformers. I think it was the Titans Return version, but I could be lying about that. It could be a Power of the Primes version. I honestly don't know. I've not had I haven't taken time to do that research because I wanted to get this video out for those people who are interested to see what he looks like in hand. But those of you who know will know, and feel free to leave a comment in the in the comments below for those looking for answers. Now, I've no general issue with remodeled figures, with recolored figures, and I think it's really nice that as part of this legacy wave of Transformers figures, that they are delving into that almost origin story of Transformers, which is, you know, the Diaclone Universe, the universe almost pre-Transformers. Those of you who are familiar with the history of Transformers know that the Diaclone toys came first, before that was all brought up by Hasbro. It's a very long, complex history, but if you're not sure, and you do want to find out more, there are lots of great resources. One I might recommend is a video YouTube channel which specializes in doing the basics on Transformers. So if you could look at the basics on the history of the Transformers, you'll find a video probably from that channel, and it's really good, really worth doing. They'll also do one on the basics on the Wreckers, so you'll hear all about that as well. So the Wreckers are here, and there were 3 sets that were released that got me really excited, and 2 sets that were released that did not. This was the first one. I was excited by it, then I was a bit disappointed because Twin Twist hasn't been married up with his Autobot brother Topspin, which was for me a shame. I did think we might see them both together, so I was a bit disappointed when that didn't happen. The other 2 that were released that I was excited about was the Comic Universe Impactor, who I'm talking about in a separate video, which came packaged with one of those weaponizers called Master Dominus, I think is the one that came with he came with Leadfoot, so that means it was Spindle that came with Impactor. Thank you for those shouting out, I did hear you. And Master Dominus came with the G2 Universe Leadfoot figure. Both figures I didn't have any versions or iterations of in any kind whatsoever, so I snapped those up. Then of course came the last 2, which were Springer, which I'd only recently acquired as a War for Cybertron figure, and it's the same mold, just slightly repainted. So I was a bit disappointed about that, because I'm not likely this soon after purchasing Springer to pick up a new one. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's at this juncture, my adult brain is winning that fight quite well. The same is true, and this one's possibly even more irritating, if I'm honest, for Bulkhead, because Bulkhead was one of the first legacy figures that was released in the first wave, and I picked that up, the Prime Universe Bulkhead, and now they've re-released him with a new deco, literally just months apart, as part of the Wreckers crew. And again, my adult brain won't let me purchase it for the sake of some camouflage paint applications. Now that's me here and now. There's a point in the future where that may change. It's not impossible, but I think it's a little bit mean of our friends over at Hasbro to do that, because they know there are some people who are completists. I am technically really a completist at heart, but my adult brain does kick in and prevent me from being silly completist about that. But the added issue is that there's a ridiculous cardboard hammer collect and build gimmick with the Wreckers, along with the artwork being interconnected on the boxed fronts, but that's another story for later. And if I don't have the Wrecker duo of Springer and of Bulkhead, I won't be able to complete the hammer assembly, which is silly. I'm not fussed about the hammer assembly, really. It's cardboard nonsense, but it also is something that from my collector brain is going, it may be cardboard nonsense, adult brain, but actually it's something that I will only have bits of, and I'm 2 figures away from completing it in its entirety. So that's really frustrating. I think it's probably very frustrating for parents who are buying these for their children, and the children are now saying, oh, but I've got to have the Wreckers, I've got to have the Wreckers. They're going, yeah, but you've just had that figure, I've just bought you that figure. They're like, yeah, but not with this camouflage. And yeah, some parents are going to go, but that's not a cheap figure to have twice. And I kind of get that. But my collector brain is saying all the things you'd expect my collector brain to be saying. Anyway, hypocritically, I'm aware that other figures are retools and recolors of pre-existing figures, and for me, Impactor, I didn't pick up. I really wanted, and I'm going to talk about them more in their own box, in their own video. And some of you may have already seen my my rapid Robo reflection on the 3 that I have bought, mainly just a quick unboxing. So I don't wish to retread that here. But yeah, so I'm a bit gutted, because there are other Wreckers such as Roadbuster and Whirl who would, I think, benefit from the modernization of their engineering, because their classic G1-ish looks, the minds behind the new transformations and the new engineering could work wonders with those 2 members of the Wreckers, and it would have filled the slots taken by Springer and taken by Bulkhead, and I think that would have, that's selfishly, I would have loved that. I know there are people who will have Mirage, they will have one of the other versions of Impactor, and they're probably having the exact same thoughts about those characters, and I get it. I really get it. I love the idea, I love the marketing behind it. I just think it's a real shame that there's some missed opportunities, some minor miscalculations around who they've included in the set. Anyway, that's me babbling on enough. The Diaclone version of Twin Twist is really, really lovely. It's got those colours that really scream early 80s robot colorizations. Let's get him over here and in hand so we can really see. Now, he's got a very... I'm just trying to get... let me see. Yeah, there's a bit of loose limb syndrome. I can't pretend otherwise. He's got a really, I think he's got a really nice face sculpt. I know it's part of the Headmaster gimmick, which we'll look at in a second, but it's a really nice head sculpt. I love the helmet array. I love the facial details, the blue eyes, the pale blue eyes in there, all good. The problem is, because it's a Headmaster, he looks a bit, he's either extremely tipsy or it's going to break any second. Now, I don't think it is going to break, but it does feel like a really less than satisfactory connection in there. So I love the paint, I love the modelling. I just feel like that could have been a little bit better in terms of its solidification. The guns, very nice, very well done in this silver with some red detailing there. You'll see the red pegs as well. They also do combine. They actually come in the box combined. If you saw my unboxing video for these three, you'll have noticed that. There's lovely red with some silver detailing. You can see the Wrecker's pseudo Autobot Wrecker symbol there on his torso. Lovely colours, lovely paneling, all of it paintwork. There's no apps. Look, I'm just going to show you this. These legs are a bit loose on the joint front, and it's a bit. This one's not so bad. It's still a bit loose. This one, touch it and it goes. It's not doing it so much now, but it doesn't really sustain the figure's weight. So you've really got to tilt it and maneuver it around. He does have, generally speaking, quite good figure articulation. Let's come out and take a good pan there. The overall articulation is really, really nice. We have, however, some really, and I'm sorry to say this, this is a really weak, I keep picking up by that leg, but it's a really weak joint. It's not the best. It kind of looks cheap. I'm afraid that's my view on this. I know Diaclone's from a different age, but it does look that those sort of pseudo ball joints in the shoulders looks cheap. The figure looks great, you know, as from a distance with some dynamic posing. It looks great, you know, and you've got generally speaking some good articulation there. But there is, I'm afraid for me, there's some real cheapness about the overall release, and I wish I could put my finger on what I mean, but at the moment I can't. When I can, I'll let you know. Anyway, round the side we've got these fantastic tracks on his shoulders. We've got slightly hollowed out drill bits on his back. This section doesn't tab in, it just sort of hangs there. I did check the instructions before I started talking nonsense in case there was some pre-play adjustment, because sometimes there is when you take stuff out of the box. There doesn't appear to be, so this canopy just sort of hangs there. Oh, there he goes again, very weak at the knees. He goes very weak at the knees very quickly. So the backs of the legs are nicely filled in. It's in keeping with the current trend to make sure there's lots of panel work around the legs. That's where a lot of the key transformation activity takes place these days in figures. So yeah, as is robot mode overall, oh, that's going to annoy me not being particularly strong. Yeah, I really just want to get some light on his face, bless him. But yeah, so there's old twin twist. It's very hard to say, I discovered. I didn't think it was, but it seems to become hard to say. In his robot mode. And again, I like the colorization. I love that they're paying homage to the Diaclone period of the Transformers toys. I don't know, there's just an element of cheapness to it for what it is, and I just kind of wish they'd included, in the same way that we got the weaponizer, fossilizer characters within the other Wreck and Rule collection boxes. It would have been nice to have given us Twin Twist and top spin together. That would have been, I think, really, really nice. Curiously, the Headmaster feature, or Power Master, or whatever we're calling them, mini bot, power, whatever you want to call it, because it's not really given it's undisclosed this time around, isn't given a name, so let's hope that we don't have to call him Topspin, and that's what's going to become of Topspin in the future. But there is a feature in vehicle mode where that will play a part, and again, that's a bit of a nod to the Diaclone Universe, the Micronaut universe in some respects as well, because obviously the Headmaster gimmick, which I'm going to call it because that's what it is, the Headmaster gimmick will pay off, because then he can sit, or she, or they can sit inside the cockpit of Twin Twist's vehicle mode. So, without further ado, I've not done this yet, so I'll report back in a second to see just how effective and straightforward it is. We'll take a look at Twin Twist in his vehicle mode. And as if by magic, from your point of view, here is Twin Twist all transformed up into his vehicle mode. Now, I'm just going to draw your attention to this iteration that I'm going to do first to get it out of the way, which is where I've transformed his head into his component part, which I still can't find a name for. And by joining those blasters together, that creates an additional side saddle, if you like, or a sidecar for this character to sit in there. So let's pick it up, and so you can see that he can then ride inside that side element. You can see he's got a nice little head sculpt of his own. Usual standard sort of headmastery articulation, conjoined legs, very, very G1. So almost pre-G1, which is the Diaclone Universe. This arm's very stiff, but it does give in the end. A little bit of movement on the head, as you can see, and the feet. But yep, we do have the cockpit over here as well, which I'll open in a second. But this can come off here, and we can split it in half, and then it gives us two additional guns that we can either mount here or at the back here, which is where I'm going to put them for now. So let's see if I can just get that. There you go. Let's get the cockpit open, pop him in there like so, and close that up. And so now he has a rider in there, which is great. So let's talk transformation, shall we? Let's. So it started really well, really enjoyable, really straightforward. I thought this is going to be a doddle. Then we got to the leg section, and it operates on a double hinge, and it would not compress down. And I'm sure it's me, and I'm sure it's my lack of experience on this figure, and it will get better. But I was beginning to lose a serious amount of patience with it. I can't pretend otherwise. Once it did it, it kind of just did it, which I know is really unhelpful from a review point of view. But I just want to sort of show you where this segment is. This back section, which are as the legs, really didn't want to compress down. So joining up here was a real challenge for me. Let's just line that back up again. So yeah, so a game of two halves, really, quite literally, because also what I found was that the waist joint, which is essentially a mushroom peg, kept detaching. So every time I'm trying to struggle with the legs, the waist section detached in my hands, which just gave me another layer of frustration. So what was, and probably is, quite a simple and straightforward transformation, took way too long and was really frustrating for me long term. Anyway, now he's in vehicle mode. I think it's quite cute. Obviously the Diaclone colour scheme really pops here. We've got the twin drills there. I'm still not convinced it's all entirely lined up quite correctly, but there was a lot of faffing about. There appears to be some stress marks across some of the bits of plastic, And again, this sort of boils down to my sense of it being quite cheap feeling. I got a repeat performance of that when I was doing the transformations. I mean, the surface detailing again isn't huge. The guns look good. There's some surface detailing along the fuselage of the vehicle, the vents, which of course are his kneecaps. And nicely coloured. That Headmaster is able to fit into the cockpit, so you can see him in there, which is lovely. But yeah, all in all, there's just something about this one that leaves me a little bit disappointed. And I don't know if it's just taking the brunt of my general disappointment around the other figures that are included, or because of the cheapness and the cheap feel of it, because it does feel, and I wish I could explain it better. I'm very mindful that I'm not explaining it very well, but it has a certain cheap feel to it. It's not a cheap toy, but it feels like it is, to me at least. Others may have a different viewpoint. I mean, there's got a big gap between the legs there, which doesn't close up. That snaps as best as it can. Yeah, I don't know. It just I don't know. I don't dislike it. I very much like the aesthetic. I'm going to very much enjoy posing him alongside the other wreckers. I think that's going to be really good. It feels a little like an anticlimax for me. I'm sure that if the leg sections had behaved themselves when I was doing the transformations, I probably would feel a lot more positive about it. As I say, the beginning of the transformation was really good. Most of it's quite I won't say innovative, because to be honest, it's nothing we've not seen in the previous issue. But it works nicely. It's got the thrust there at the back. Yeah, it's a kind of Cybertronian double drilling assault vehicle that you would hope that would be on the side of the Autobots. It's if International Rescue weaponized their mole vehicle, this is what it would look like going into battle for the Autobots. So there you have that. There's no real other features to it. It is what you see. Yeah, again, literally a game of two halves, I think, for me. The beginning of the transformation was okay, quite fun. Then it became a nightmare with those legs, and I'm going to transform him back shortly once I've done some photos, just to see whether it was me and my unfamiliarity, or whether it was in fact just the cheapness of the toy. And the basic mantra felt to me like just keep fiddling it until it clicks into place, which is not ideal. It's not that unfamiliar in some cases, but it's not ideal. But I like the toy. I like the look of it now. It's in it is transformed up. I think the playability will be great. I know that the parts are designed to come up to detach, to help for ease, and they can reattach. But honest to goodness, that mushroom peg was really, really frustrating. And yeah, I could have done without that. I won't lie. So, does Twin Twist from the Wreck and Rule collection belong in your collection? Only you know the answer to that. Of course, as I said earlier, from a completist point of view, I'm really glad I got him. I didn't get the previous iteration of Twin Twist, and I definitely didn't have Twin Twist or Topspin back in the G1 days. So this is my very first iteration. And of course, it celebrates the Diaclone age of the Transformer toy line, pre-Transformers. So I really appreciate that being in the mix as part of the Legacy universe. Is he going to be my favourite Wreck and Rule figure? I doubt it. I think I know who that's going to be, and we'll get to that character in the fullness of time. But I am glad that I have him, because again, that's the completist in me talking. I wish some of the joints, particularly the leg joints, were a little firmer to manoeuvre and had a bit more of a ratchet sense to them. I wish that the wrists had some articulation. They're held together with, again, a friction joint, and one of them came off. So, it's It's not the most robust of the Transformers I've ever had a look at on this channel. I'm afraid. So does it have a place in your collection? Unless you really want it, then it might not. You could take a pass on this one and you wouldn't necessarily feel like you've missed out. If you are a collectionist and a completist, then obviously there is no question about whether it has a place in your collection. You know the answer, and you don't need me to tell you. And you won't regret having it, as long as you go in with your eyes open and understand what you're getting there. So really, that's what I have to say about Twin Twist. Apologies, it went a little bit downhill. I'm sure others had a different experience, and that's great. Do make sure you canvass as many reviewers and Transformerists as possible to get different perspectives and viewpoints. There's a lot of people out there who will be able to give you a really, really good review of this figure. So yeah, I'm just a bit disappointed, but I am glad that I have it nevertheless. And again, it could be me. I do factor in my own human error when it comes to that initial transformation. So anyway, it just remains for me to thank you very much for spending the last 20 minutes or so with me. You've been a wonderful audience. Please do hit the like button if this has helped you decide whether or not Twin Twist has a place in your collection. While you're there, subscribe to the channel. It really, really helps, especially if you turn on notifications so you never miss a future video and you'll get notified every time one is posted. Then it's up to you whether or not you want to watch. It really helps me out. Thank you so much. Take care. I hope to see you in a future video, and it just remains for me to say that a thing of beauty really is a joy and a toy forever. Take care, and one to roll out.